In this tutorial, I'll be explaining for loop. In software development, it is very common that you like to execute a block of code in a specified number of times. For example, if you like to execute a block of code 5 times, in cases like this, you have to use for loop. And for loop is written as for, you have 3 components here, and this is the block of code to be executed. In all, there are 4 components. This is the first component, this is the second component, this is the third component, and this is fourth component, which is a block of code. To have a loop, it starts from the 3 components, executes the block of code, it goes back to the 3 components, executes the block of code, and it continues like this. Now I'll explain the components one after the other. This first component is the starting point of the loop. And it is usually an assignment statement. For example, if you want your starting point to be 0, so you can write $value or $I, which is frequently used in loop, equals to 0. If you want your starting point to be 1, you simply have $I equals to 1. The second component, it determines if the loop should continue or not. And this is actually a conditional statement. The starting point is an assignment statement. For the second component, it has to be a conditional statement. That is, it is either true or false. For example, to have a loop of 2, if you require 2 loops, you want your block of code to be executed 2 times, this component has to be true, true, and false in the last time. At this point, the loop will break. And these 2 truths signifies that we have 2 loops. The third component is the increment. This is the increment to the starting point. For example, if you want an increment of 1, your starting point, which is $I, will be the same thing as $I plus 1. This is the increment of 1. For the increment of 2, it will be $I equals $I plus 2. So the third component is basically for increment. And the last component, block of code, which you are very used to. So this is the code to be executed in the specified number of times. Let us try some examples of for loop. Let's assume we want 2 loops. We want a block of code to be executed 2 times. So let's write our starting point. Let's assume we are starting with 0. So we have $I equals to 0. And this condition is usually very complex, so it should be written last. And also it depends on the increment, so you can't write the value now. You have to write the increment before stating this value. The increment and the starting point must be known before you can determine this value. So you have the increment, assuming you want an increment of 1. So it will be $I equals to $I plus 1. So to write this condition, let's have a graphical look of our loop. So let us assume this is the starting point and this is the ending point of each loop. So we have the value of $I here and $I here. So the value of $I when the loop is starting and the value of $I when you are ending each loop. $I for the starting point is 0. And between this and this is our increment. In our case, our increment is 1. So you put 1 here. So when you begin the first loop, you are required to write 2 loops. For the first loop, you have this coming to this. This is a complete loop. At this point, our $I is 1. And this 1 is going to be the beginning of $I for the next loop. So remember, we need 2 loops. So we can also have another loop. It goes down again. And at this point, our $I is 2. For the next one, $I is starting with 2. But we don't need any loop again. So it means at the end of the loops, our $I is now 2. We need to write a condition that will be false relative to the present condition of our $I. $I presently is 2. So if you write a condition like $I is not equals to 2, this is going to be false because 2 is not equals to 2 is false. You can also write a condition like $I is less than 2. $I is not less than 2 because $I is 2 at this position. So this is also false. And one thing you have to notice is that these 2 conditions have to be true in the first 2 loops. Let's check when $I is equal to 0. For $I is 0, we have $I is not equal to 2. This will be true. For $I equals to 1, 1 is not the same thing as 2. This is going to be true. So you see that for the 2 loops, your condition will be true, true, and false. So let us try for $I is less than 2. For the first loop, $I is 0. So you have when $I equals 0, 0 is less than 2. This is true. When $I is 1, 1 is less than 2. This is also true. So you also know that you'll be having true, true, and false. So we have true, true, which signifies we have 2 loops, and this is not a loop. It shows that this true, true conforms with the requirement of the question. So we can write our loop as this. For our starting point is 0. The second component is now $I is not equals to 2. And the last component is $I equals to $I plus 1. And this is the block of code. It can also be written as for $I is 0, $I is less than 2, $I equals $I plus 1. And this is the block of code. So let's take another example. We are also writing 2 loops in this example, but let's change some of the components. For the starting point, let us assume our starting point is 1. This is difficult to determine. And our increment, let us assume an increment of 1 also. So $I equals $I plus 1. So to determine the second component, so this is our $I, this is the starting point, and this is the ending point. So at the starting point, $I is 1, and the increment is +1, so we have 1 here. So the first loop, this will move to this, and at the end of the loop, our $I is now 2. This is going to be the starting point of the next loop. When you move down, this is 3, and this is going to be the starting point of the next loop. But we only need 2 loops, so it means by the end of the 2 loops, $I equals to 3. So to write our condition, we can either have $I is not equals to 3, or we have $I is less than 3. So to write our answer, it's going to be 4, $I equals to 1, $I is not equals to 3, $I equals to $I plus 1. And this is the block of code. And the second way is writing something like 4, $I is 1, $I is less than 3, $I equals $I plus 1. And this is the block of code. So let us take another example. Assuming you want 3 loops. So let's assume a starting point, $I, to be 0. This is difficult to determine. And our increment, let's assume an increment of 2. So we have $I equals $I plus 2. So let us draw our graphical representation. So this is start. So you have $I, this is the starting point, and this is the ending point. Our starting point, this is 0. So, and the increment this time around is 2. So this is 2. So 0, so this will come 2. And this 2 will be the starting point here. This is the first loop. The second loop, this will be 4. The third loop, this will be 6. And to start another loop, no, because we've completed 3 loops. This is 1, 2, 3. So at this point, our $I is 6. To write the second component, it's going to be $I is not equals to 6, or we can write it as $I is less than 6. So to write the for loop, we have 4, $I equals 0, the starting point, $I is not equals to 6, and $I equals to $I plus 2. So, and this is a block of code. So for the second type, it's going to be 4, $I equals to 0, $I is less than 6, $I equals to $I plus 2. And we have the block of code here.